I got my old John Deere tractor out to plow some snow the other day, and the starter drive went out. The teeth sheared off of the starter drive. Now it's out in a foot of snow, waiting for it to melt before I feel like getting under it and working on it. I have this starter, which is supposed to be the original one out of that tractor. The nose cone broke off. Probably somebody stepped on the starter when the engine was rocking back in the backwards direction from compression. That apparently is a fairly common thing to happen with these. You got to be real careful. Let that engine settle down before you step on the starter again, or it'll pop this off when you engage. So I'm going to try to fix this starter while there's still snow out there. Fortunately, I don't have urgent need to plow anything with the tractor. I've got everything I really need cleared off with the shovel. So I'd like to have this ready to go, and I've been meaning to work on this. Anyway, I'm going to braze this. I'm going to get this old starter drive. This also has a bad starter drive, and I have a new one that I bought 17 years ago to put on this starter and do this repair, so now I'm finally getting around to it. I got to get this off and get the old starter drive off, and we'll see about grinding bevel in all of these surfaces and get it all cleaned up and see if I can do a decent job of brazing this. If I do a good enough job, it should be as strong as the original casting, and I should end up with a starter that's ready to bolt on. There's the old starter drive out. I don't know how well you can see those teeth, but they are pretty badly chewed up. I'll get the bearing out of here and the engagement lever, all the odd parts, and get this ready to clean up and braze. I have this cleaned and prepped for brazing. I can't even feel the joint on the inside with this setup. I got a bolt through into a piece of bar stock underneath to hold it together. Got it V'd nicely all the way around. Little extra clip through the drain hole on the back to hold alignment there, and V continuing on around. Now let's head out to the welding table and put this in the vise and see if brazing comes back like riding a bicycle. It's been a long time since I did a braze joint. I think that came out fairly well. I'm pretty happy with that, especially considering how long it's been since I've done any brazing. I've got the crack just about full all the way around, and that was a deeply grooved crack. It was to the full depth. I still can't feel on the places where it didn't flow all the way through. I cannot feel the join, but even there I can see that the brass came all the way through, so it bonded fully. Got a little extra on the inside. I'll leave that, it won't be in the way. I will chip this washer out. That was part of the retaining clip that I had clamped on with that 1/4 inch bolt. I don't want that washer to come loose and roll around in there. Did get a little bit of flow out where the material ran, so then I had to fill back up again. I'll have to grind that off down to the diameter of this here, so it'll clear through the hole in the casting where it bolts up. But that's pretty good, I think. I'm happy with that. I believe it's probably as strong as it was before. So I'll clean this up and do some grinding on here to get rid of the material that raises above the surface that has to clear, and be ready to put this back together. Pretty happy with the way this cleaned up. Looks to have a good bond all the way on both sides of that crack. I've knocked down the high spots even with this machined surface. This has to go up and into a hole as it goes into the tractor. There's a cavity that the starter goes up into, and then it has to turn. I think most of the clearance issues are out here, which is original surface. But there may be, I may need to take a little more off of here. After I get the old starter off, the one that's in there now, I'm going to trial fit this without the rest of the starter, because it's a very awkward position, working on your back and reaching way up high. So it'll be a lot easier to trial fit this with just the nose rather than the entire starter. I'm really glad I did a trial fit on the nose cone. Even after wire brushing the mounting hole, this register surface with the paint on it didn't want to go in, so I cleaned the paint off and down to bare metal, masked it, touched up the paint again for rust protection. When I put this in, I'll put it in with a thin layer of anti-seize to prevent rusting and corrosion in there. That's a very tight interface. I've cleaned up a bunch of the hardware. Make sure I get good contact. I've cleaned the rotor and the commutator, inspected carefully. This has nearly new brushes. They're in excellent condition and they're worn into the commutator surface, so I'm not going to do anything to that. I'm just going to put it back together. I'll put a small dab of grease in these bushings, and I've wire brushed the contact surfaces for the end plates, so it should be just a matter now of putting this back together. I should have a good serviceable starter, and at some later date I might do a full restoration on this one that came out with the bad pinion drive. And I'll try to remember to get a close-up picture. That pinion is just totally destroyed. Now I've got her hooked up to a battery, 12-volt battery. This is a 12-volt system, just to make sure everything is connected and working properly. So let's give her a try. Oh, wow, that starter's got some torque, I'll tell you. I don't see how it could be better than that. Now I will put the band on, so I'll clean it up a little bit first, the band over the brush area, and this needs to go on here. It comes out and gets plugged into the bypass wire to the coil to put full 12 volts to the coil during starting. Then I'll take it out to the tractor. Now for for the first timers that haven't done one of these before, it helps a lot if you have someone else with you standing up alongside the flywheel with a string attached to the activation arm, the lever, to pull that up. This wants to fall down, and then you can't get it past the housing. When you're going through the hole in the housing, it wants to hit against this arm. So if you have somebody pull that up and hold it up as you put the starter up in the hole, then this arm will clear the hole in the housing and you'll be able to get it up in there. Trying to do it alone without that kind of help is somewhere between difficult and impossible. It's just really hard. So now the big question is, will the old girl start? Let's go see. Yes, I've already tried it. It starts.